Hello again, listener, and welcome back to the Kennedy Podcast, the realism behind the schoolism. In today's episode, Hector and Ishmael are joined by one of the English teachers at Kennedy High, Mr. Mogey. Here they talk about how Mogey went through some deep stuff such as a deep depression that seemed to have been cured by electroconvulsive therapy, as well as the need for context, the goals of life, and the chase of fame. Sadly, they didn't have that much time to talk too much due to an event that shortened their time. So, want to hear about our moments of our lives that can be told at the K? Then sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of
Kennedy Podcast.
Sponsored by Daily Eagle, I think. KQED, please notice us. Anyone, please notice us. We need money.
Hello, welcome back to the Kennedy Podcast. Today, same people, me and Ishmael, except that this time we have Mr. Mogey. Hello, Mr. Mogey.
Hello. Thanks for having me on. Excited to, I don't know what I'm going to be talking to you about, but excited to ramble.
All right, so you are so far we've been talking to head of math department, head of English department. So I know you are English teacher and teacher for the movie class. There's a name to it.
Film-inspired creative writing.
Yeah, film-inspired creative
whatever,
writing.
Yeah, that means.
Movie class, basically. I hoped to have actually taken that class because, funny enough, I don't have a third period, so there's that.
Yeah, that's why you're here.
Yeah, I visit here or I visit Avid. It's all up to anything. So, and the only reason I'm doing the intro now is because Ishmael last time is yo, what's up? It's me, Skinny Yee.
It's your boy, Ishmael, coming to you live. Yeah.
Not that. It was that was fine. It was what he said after. It's how he introduced me. He's and we got Hector the
Oh, yeah. See, you had to kind of twist that one even.
Except that it was at a second attempt because at first we did it and then bell rung or they made an announcement. So it was awkward. Because I'm oh no, what is the teacher gonna think?
Yeah.
And then she's out here calling me that now, so
yeah.
It's all fun and games. So
it's all fun and games until someone gets arrested and and you get dragged to court
it's freedom of speech.
Start searching through your phones and everything.
We're all about to get drafted anyway.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's not freedom of speech. You don't have any rights at school anyway, and whatever rights you said you had, they can just yank that away from you in a second.
That's why we have a podcast.
Yeah.
So Ishmael's probably going to be the one that gets this whole podcast canceled. We're going to have we'll find out.
It'll be a good story about how we all ended up in the war together while I was planning on being my podcast host and running everything. And next thing you know, I called someone something I shouldn't facetiously. Yeah. And now I'm in Iran.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I've asked this to Perez, Pals, Maher, now you. How did you get to this very non-free place?
Like Kennedy?
Yes.
How'd I get to Kennedy?
Kennedy.
It just happened. It all just happened. So where do I start this? All right. So first off, I never had any idea what I actually wanted to do with my life at all the way through college. High school, never had any clue. I was, it's the game where you tell people what you want to do, but it's a game and you're just kind of answering the question because this person asked me to write an essay about my career dream, but I'm just manufacturing it for the assignment. Felt wise, I never had any idea. I knew some of the things I liked to do. I always liked reading. I always, I liked art. I liked talking about books. I liked talking about things like that. But I never really had a plan. So graduated from high school, no plan for what I was going to do. Went off to college, no plan for what I was going to do within college. I bounced between 4 different majors over the course of there. So I came in thinking I was going to be a classics major. Took a bunch of classes in that until I got to some classes where I was just I really hate art history classes, and you're going to make me take a bunch of them in order to get this major. So screw it. I'm not doing that. Then for a while, I was going to be an astronomy major, but then it got to the point with the math classes where I was I think I could pull this off, but the amount of work I'm going to have to put into it, I don't actually care about this. I'm not going to make this my thing. I also had a bunch of history credits. So I was kind of sitting I could major in all these different things, but I don't really know. I don't really care. So this is happening my freshman and my sophomore year of college. And then my mental health went down the toilets. So like, it's impossible to answer this question about how you got here without me briefly going down my mental illness thing, which is that like, wow, very red hands, but sorry to digress. My sophomore year of college, my mental health plummeted. I was like actively suicidal, unfunctional. After a long thing, it turns out of like bipolar depression, which it runs in my family. It's, it didn't come out of nowhere. But what it meant was that I had to go on medical leave for the second half of my sophomore year and the beginning of my junior year. So came back home, had like a complete breakdown. Parents had to pull me out of school, bring me back home, put me in the hospital, long road in the hospital to kind of get back stable. And then when I got back to school, like I still wanted to graduate on time because I was going to be, I was back with my friends and stuff like that. And I didn't want to stay an extra year. Also, college is, freaking expensive. So I didn't want to have to pay for another year of that. So I was left basically with like, well, if you're going to graduate on time, you need to major in whatever you have the most credits in. So for me, that ended up being English. It was just going to be the most straightforward thing to major in, where I wouldn't have had to do any extra classes. I would be able to graduate on time. And I liked it as much as anything else. I couldn't really decide anyway. It was like literally the day before they made you pick your major, like the last possible day to pick your major. I got like dragged in by my advisor and they're like, seriously, you're not allowed to leave this office until you decide. So I had to make a decision. So graduate. That's all going, get done with college. I still have absolutely no idea what I'm going to be doing. No idea, no dreams, no hopes, no desires. Like I'm just staring at my future being like, well what now? And like since I was a little kid, I've always been like really intellectual and like nerdy about things like that. So I'd always just like kind of assumed that like, well, I'll go to college and then I'll go to grad school, then I'll probably go get a PhD and then I'll probably do something in like academics. But like once I got done with college, I had like zero desire to actually continue going to school. And I had nothing else kind of going for it. So I moved up to live with some of my friends up in Seattle. And then my mental health went downhill again even more. So there's a couple month period there where I'm just like sitting in a dark room in bed staring at the wall, not applying for jobs, burning through all the savings I had burnt up, racking up some credit card debt, just being like nothing, no future, no nothing. This is while like, I moved in with a bunch of guys who also didn't have jobs and they're like, all right, we're all going to go apply and get things. And I'm like sitting in like month 2 or 3 of that. And they're like all off and doing their jobs and stuff like that. And I'm like, I can't even like decide what to eat when I open the refrigerator. I'm not in any shape to be like applying for anything. So everything crashed again. Parents had to bail me out again, bring me back home, back into the hospital. This time took a little bit longer, about like a year and a half or 2 years before I was on my feet. There's way more stories about that we could go down that road if you so desired. But and then eventually I'm kind of on my like start doing better. I eventually did like kind of what's the nuclear option for mental illness, electroconvulsive therapy, which is like electroshock therapy, which I don't know what y'all have heard about it. It completely saved my life. Like in a period of 6 weeks, I went from actively suicidal to more functional than I had been like since I was a little kid. And so I come out of that and, I'm still dealing with like a lot of stuff. Like I've never really figured out how to live life before. I had basically been getting taken care of by my parents, like all the way up. And I'm like 23 at this point. Like they had basically been taking care of me the whole time. Like, the kind of things of like reminding me, did you eat today? Did you eat today? Did you like reminding me like you need to change your clothes and like that level of need. But I'm starting to do better. And my parents knew what I needed to do to continue this, which was you need to be doing literally anything to get out of the house and like get out of your own head. Like that's the solution. Once the treatment starts to be working, the answer is you just got to start doing stuff, and don't worry about why, whether you want to. You just, when you're able to start doing stuff, you are. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, I don't know what to do though. And my mom was just like, well, I don't know. Go volunteer at your old high school. So I was like, whatever. And I wasn't in a point of like space to really push back. I was just like, if you're telling me that's what I'm going to do, I'm going to go do it. So I start doing that. This is over at Berkeley High. I'm coming in, I'm working with some classes of seniors with this woman, Amy Crawford, she was like extraordinary teacher, extraordinary mentor, like kind of teacher I'd never really had before, who was like both exceptionally good at her craft and then also like understood the kids at a deeper level, and like how like beyond the like banal motivational stuff, but like actually understood what it meant to like be support. So like super good mentor. And immediately like I clicked with the class and I realized like I love doing this. Like I can talk all day. I love just like talking with people about stuff, talking about art, whatever. And so I'm really getting into it and I'm enjoying all the time working with the kids, and I'm like in a support capacity. I'm like her helper basically. Then, and this is like October, so I started doing that like in September, and this is going to be like September 2014. Then about like a month into doing this, Amy Crawford, the woman I was doing this with, she had a history of sleepwalking. And what happened to her was one night she was sleepwalking in the middle of the night and tripped and fell down the stairs and bashed her head in and had a traumatic brain injury. And it took her out for the year. Like for a period of time, she was in a coma. Eventually she came out of the coma and was like, but like there was no way she was going to be able to work. And I had developed a rapport with the kids. They were cool with me. Sub issue was a thing everywhere, so they were like able to get random subs to come in, but like the people, like her neighbors, the other people in the school who knew me, they were like, hey, the sub will take roll, but can you just teach this class? And I'm like, I don't got anything better to do. Sure, why not? So I had like that opportunity to do it, and it's like the lowest stakes kind of thing possible, where I'm like, anything I can give is going to be a benefit and might as well. And so I did that, and I never had any idea I wanted to be a teacher, but like a couple days into it, I'm just like, oh yeah, I guess I could do this for the rest of my life. This isn't too bad. Yeah. So like that's how I decided I wanted to be a teacher. Circumstances forced me into teaching, and then I realized like, yeah, I can do this. This feels okay. Never anything I'd thought of before, like my mom forced me to do it. So then, after that year is done, I'm like, all right, I got to go get my credential and like make this official. So I did that, and I didn't really want to do like fancy schooling and stuff like that. So I just went to Cal State East Bay because it was cheap and quick, and it'd get me the degree I needed in order to like get teaching. Yeah. So I do that. Finish up that program. And unfortunately, right as I'm finishing it up, my mental health starts to get a little worse. Like not nearly as bad as it was before. And I'm like, at this point, I kind of had much more of a handle on it, but I just didn't have a lot of like motivation and effort this summer between when I finished my credential program and like when I needed to start working to like really grind out applying to all these different schools. So I'll be honest, I came to this school because this district was going to be the easiest one to get hired in and the quickest one to get hired in, where I knew if I just put in this 5-minute application and did this quick little interview, I'm gonna get a job. And at least once I have that job, I can go from there. But like, it's not gonna be that cumbersome. So this is like the first job I applied to as a teaching job. I didn't even apply to Kennedy. I just applied to the general West Contra Costa Unified School District like teacher pool. I got interviewed by like a couple people not from here, like some middle school vice principals and stuff like that. And then they're like, okay, you're going to Kennedy. And I'm like, I have no idea what that means. And I just show up here and I'm like, I had been doing my previous thing, all teaching like AP literature and AP language and composition. And then I get to Kennedy and they're like, you're teaching ELD 1. Oh. And I'm like, I don't speak Spanish. I don't know what that class really involves. I mean, I think we did that. We did like ELD stuff for like 2 days in my credential program, maybe. Okay. But I had really good support. My neighbor was teaching the same thing at that point, so he was able to kind of support me with it. This is a time when our district was way more functional. So like, actually had like coaches and support and people coming in to help me learn how to do it. And it also became one of those things where like, 6 months into doing it, I'm like, maybe I don't actually like talking so much about like literature and all of this. This feels more important and basic and human. I can do this for the rest of my life. And then I just went with that. So like it's really just been a series of like coincidences almost that forced me into like this was the thing directly in front of me, and it felt fine. So I didn't really question it that much.
Yeah.
And here I am.
That's like you want the podcast, man? Like nah, that's okay. That's kind of what we want. Like we want to like share stories of others and you know have people the freedom to speak out about whatever the hell. But yeah, how many years have you been in Kennedy now?
This is year 10 or 11. I always 10.
Yeah.
You can figure this out by 2 years more than Perez.
Got it.
So if they gave you an answer, add 2 on it. It's that. Yeah.
All right. God, there was like questions that were like bubbling up, but so yeah, the whole electroshock therapy.
Yeah,
thing.
I'd love to talk about ECT, man.
Like,
Because wait, I want to first ask you, what do you know about ECT? Because this is always wild for me. Just and I know that you don't actually know, but you've heard some things. So I'm curious, what have you heard? What do you know?
Well, I don't know too much about it, but all I know is that I can name like 2 things I've heard about it. First being Cult of Chucky. They're like making Nika, the protagonist, like Chucky's just a doll. Chucky's just a doll. It works, and then she sees the doll and the way the other like patients of that place. But that's because they were not so great. They were pretty malicious.
Yeah.
And then there's Stranger Things with the mom like forgetting her own daughter, 11, and all I know is that like it involves just shocks to the brain, or as I've seen like defibrillators to the brain. I'm like, okay, well that's something.
Yep.
So you're out here telling me electroshock therapy, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna get into it, and then you say, oh, it saved my life, and I'm like, oh, like,
you want to?
Oh yeah, like didn't I jokingly suggest that to you like 2 years ago?
Depends why.
I don't know. It was that time when you were like really in like deep shit.
Oh,
like you were like depressed and stuff. So I was just like, why don't you just do electroshock therapy?
Yeah, that was a year ago.
This is something I've gotten into arguments with psychiatrists about. Once I got better and like kind of understood more about mental illness, this is something where I'm like, this sounds like really wrong, but boy, do I wish that they had just pushed me towards this earlier on. Because like, I will say that, I mean, like, I think like you get the memory side of things, you get like examples in movies where it's like used to like manage behavior. Yeah. And then, you also get like, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest type stuff and like trauma stories about old psychiatry.
Yeah. And
all right, so the stuff with like behavior, like managing like behavior, it doesn't really work. They don't use it for that. They drug you up and do other things for that. And unfortunately, we still don't really have a solution for like schizophrenia, schizoaffective kind of disorders like that. They don't have a similar kind of thing like with ECT that they do for like what ECT does for depression. But I will say this, the memory stuff is absolutely true. It hits everybody different. They have no way of predicting how intense the memory loss is going to be. And from what I've been told, I had it pretty bad. Okay. So I do have a complete blank spot on my memory that covers like completely blacked out, probably about 6 months surrounding ECT. Mm-hmm. I can't remember anything. It's completely gone. To the point where apparently when I got out of the hospital, I started dating a woman. I have no recollection of her. I ran into her on the street a couple years later. I had no idea who she was, what her face was, and why she ran up to me hugging me, and then why she was also pissed at me. And then the long, really kind of complex thing of being like, I don't know, whatever, you guys are old enough. Being like, I was intimate with a person whose face I cannot remember. And how that sits with you, like emotionally, and how freaking weird it is. Because it's like once you realize that with one example, you like start to like question like what else happened in that period that I absolutely just can't remember.
Yeah.
And it, like the gray period extends even more out, or like even further out, like to periods of years where like my memories of college are really bad. Like I don't remember a lot of, there's a huge amount of things, experiences where I'm like, I have this vague recollection of what happened, but like there's really no texture to the memory. It doesn't feel alive. It feels like me kind of trying to desperately reconstruct the memory. But like, I'm aware of the fact, like, I'm making this shit up, aren't I? Like, I'm making this up. I don't actually remember it, but I'm like, I know something happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's completely real. And for some people, it can be way worse than that. Some people, it's not that bad at all. But like, still totally worth it. Because like the other side of this is like, I was freaking miserable. So I'm like, what did I miss? I obviously wasn't like, there obviously wasn't anything exciting and beautiful and profound that like, I'm like, man, if only I could remember that one beautiful day where, and this one perfect meal I had. I'm like, no, everything sucked then. So like, I don't really mind that the memories are gone, but it is weird how it kind of like has gotten me to question memory more basically. Yeah. And like once you like realize how your memories are not these permanent things living inside your head, how that starts to like impact like how I think about like my early childhood, where like increasingly now I'm like, because of ECT and what it did to my memory, I do not trust any of my memories from early childhood. There's like the, you know, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, like the expression, like when it comes to memory, you're not remembering the thing that happened. You're remembering the last time you thought about it and remembered it. Mm-hmm. So like, I apply that to my childhood, and I know I have this gap in the middle. So I'm like, I'm remembering the last time I thought about this, which is remembering the last time I thought about it. And then we get into this gray area, and I'm reconstructing the times I used to think about it before. And we're so far away from the original experience that like the whole idea of did this even happen is kind of like irrelevant at a certain point. So it's like, I don't know, it's like disturbing in a way where I'm like, I don't know what I did. I have no idea for a lot of my life what my experiences were, how I felt about things. Like to a basic thing, like, was I a happy child? I don't know. I have some pictures where I look happy. I have memories after the fact of feeling miserable.
You got family that can
yeah, but like what actually deep down, I have no idea, and it's gone. And I think that's like for me, that's like the, you know, the only true thing to say is just like, that's kind of off limits, which I almost kind of find freeing, because like for me, like one of the things it means is like, I think it's not what I'm talking about, everybody goes through. It's not just like an ECT thing. It's like your own memories of childhood go through the same thing. And as you get older, it just gets more and more intense because you're further and further from the original experiences. But like, what it means to me is like when we hear anybody talk about their past and their history and their story and all of this, if we're being honest, they're mythologizing themselves. They're not telling the truth about what they went through. They're telling this myth that their memories have built up over time as they've processed this, as they've gone through their lives. Which is always like really hard for like, you know, like going back to the why did you become the teacher thing, when like if someone tells me like if there was someone who's like, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. From the time I was in second grade and I met my favorite teacher, Miss, you know, whoever her face is, and you know, it's totally inspiration. I just wanted to be like that. Yeah. Part of me is like, it's not that I don't believe you, but I think that that's a myth you've made, and that's a myth you've told yourself, because those memories are off limit. And it's freeing in a way, because like, for me, it just means like this whole idea about like being honest about who I am doesn't necessarily have as much to do with like who I was, how I got here, how I make sense of my life. It's just like how I am in this moment. Like that's all we really have access to. In the past, it's just this story we tell ourselves about ourselves. Craziest thing about ECT though? Let's see, what else? What else? So the woman I do have a flash of memory of the woman in the bed next to me. who was comatose depressed, an old woman. They had taken her out. She was in like a long-term care facility, like comatose depression. It's like the most serious level where like literally like mental activity is totally fine. Like physiologically, there's nothing going on, but like no physical movement. The person will just stay in bed and they will rot in bed. They won't eat. They won't drink. They have to be on feeding tubes. Like the only thing you'll get are occasional blinks and occasional swallows. And this woman hadn't spoken for like years, apparently. I'm sitting her in the bed, after like or before one of the treatments, and she just starts talking. And like, just like the experience of watching how it blew the minds of all the nurses watching there. Like I have this image of like them all being like, oh my God, and like calling up the doctor and being like, it finally worked and everything like that, where I'm like, it's life-saving. It's also hugely traumatic. Because I mean, you know what it literally is. So literally, the way the way electroconvulsive therapy came about was in the early 1900s, they noticed that there is a lower percentage of depression among people who have seizure disorders, specifically among people who have seizure disorders that give you what are called grand mal seizures, or what do they call them now? Tonic-clonic seizures, which are like full brain seizures. And really what a seizure is like electrically resetting your brain. Like it's restarting the computer. And they noticed that there was just like a relationship, the more like between depression rates and seizure and who naturally had seizures. And so this is a time in like medicine was terrible. And like, this is when they were lobotomizing people and stuff like that. So like their critical thinking skills weren't too great with it, but they stumbled on something right, which is like, well, let's just start trying to like simulate seizures in them and see if that produces the same effect. And it turns out it did. It doesn't stick. And there's way cooler stuff they do now. Like if I was going through what I went through now, I probably wouldn't end up having done electroconvulsive therapy, just because they've developed more specific technologies now. So the last one I did last time my move was slipping and I needed a little bump. It's things called transcranial magnetic stimulation, where it's basically operating on the same principle of like we need to reset the electrical circuitry in your brain, because that's what depression, bipolar disorder, a lot of what it is. It's just like there's a part of your brain that's responsible for like deeper emotional attachments to things and like feelings of joy and contentment, like those secondary responses to what happened that make you feel like, you know, just smile and be like, that was nice, that felt good. Your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, it's like this part right up here. They've noticed, and like, you know, because of brain imaging, they can see in people with depression, this part of your brain is super understimulated. And so it used to be what they needed to do to stimulate it was shock the whole freaking thing. So they put an electrode on one side, put an electrode on another, hook it up to a massive electrical device, crank the dial, electricity just flows through your whole brain.
I'm gonna try to like give a visual because
there'll be some visuals and stuff you can use. What transcranial magnetic stimulation does is way more specific, because we have brain imaging now that we know the specific part of the brain that it is, and it's a part of the brain that's like above your right eye, kind of around your temple, around there, just a little bit under the surface in your brain. And so now, instead of like having to shock the whole brain, they stick a gigantic magnet, like gigantic MRI strength industrial magnet up to your head. You get your head locked into place with like restraints on your head so nothing can move, so it stays hitting this exact part of your brain. And for like 20 minutes a day, they just pulse massive amounts of electrical current into that part of the brain. And it does the same overall thing of like re-stimulating, re-establishing the circuitry. It just doesn't like fry your whole brain and give you the same kind of things that like, you know, ECT did. So I guess like time-wise, it was, you know, like ECT you have to do in the hospital, because like you have to go under general anesthetic, because like, you know, they're giving you a seizure, like the physical pain and stuff like that, if you're not sedated, would be like completely preposterous. But for like transcranial magnetic stimulation, I mean, now that I think about it, time-wise, I think I was getting this done when I had you as a freshman. And I just got this done in the morning on my way to school and then was able to teach the rest of the day. So it's like technology's getting a lot cooler with it. But, yeah.
Speaking of teaching, mentioned this to pals on one of the episodes, but it's very funny how, like, because when I came to Kennedy, I'm over here thinking, oh my God, high school, what am I going to expect? I wasn't too overwhelmed by everything, but, like, you know, I'm still, like, having that, like, pressure of, like, okay, I need to, like, show some example to something, or what should I do? And then next thing I know, I meet you. You're my first impression. Oh, I don't give a shit about what you say. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, strange. Never had a teacher that.
Yeah.
'Cause most times, like elementary school, no swearing, no nothing. They say, they're like, one time they said, "What the heck?"
Yep.
And everyone's like, "Why?" And then the teacher has to be like, "Oh, no, that's not." And then, you know, one teacher's like, "It's okay to say what the heck," and then another teacher's like, "No, do not say that at all." Or like something slips and then you're like in deep trouble. Middle school, they don't really care that much. Sometimes, or there was a teacher that once like slipped.
Yeah.
He was like, he dropped something, he's like, ah, shit. And everyone's like,
oh my goodness. Yeah.
And now it's like, I'm over here like, okay, no swearing. And then,
and then you hear me running my mouth.
Yeah. But it's understandable. Like,
yeah. Oh no. I love, and like, I've had like, you know, I've had people who are like not technically my bosses, but people who are in a somewhat supervisory position with me, like ask me about this, and I'm like, I will fight to the death on this, and I support it. Like I believe in my stance.
Yeah.
But the other side of it is like I have no problem with the alternative. It's just not a personality that I can make work for myself.
Yeah.
So like the thing for me is like, I mean, I can police what I'm saying, and I can be professional and fully, you know, give, you know, like I could show up in a suit and tie every day and be proper and this and that.
Yeah.
It's just doing that on a daily basis is going to require me to kill something of who I actually am. And I believe very, very, very strongly that students will always see through that inauthenticity.
Yeah.
So I think about this with a lot of the teachers around here, the ones who are way more strict. And I actually have a ton of respect for teachers who are able to consistently, regularly, without any deviation, and totally authentically to who they are, hold that line. Where it's like, why are they pushing this rule? Because that's who they are. This is just someone who doesn't swear. Yeah. So they're never going to be doing that around you.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, that's going to require me changing myself in order to present something to you.
Yeah.
And number one, I don't want to do that because then I'm going to be living my life as a fraud. And number two, I don't actually think it helps y'all. Because I think that it reeks of BS. Yeah. It reeks of it. When someone is putting on a voice that is not theirs, you know it the instant. And the barrier to like actually feeling comfortable talking with them is just doubled, tripled. And like the barrier for like asking for help, making mistakes, all the things that like we actually want, like it just raises. So, I mean, like I try not to be like mean and rude and like say horrible things to people.
Yeah, and you make sure the others don't say it to others either.
Yeah, and but I just don't see anything wrong with profanity. Also, when I'm not being rude, and me, it's like I thought, a lot of this is how I grew up. Like my parents swear all the time. Like I almost got expelled from preschool for teaching all the kids all the swear words and practicing all the swear words with them. They like had to pull everyone in and like pull my mom and dad in and be like, if this happens again, he's just got to go because we're getting complaints from all the other parents about why they came home saying this, that, and the other. And my parents are like, oh yeah, shoot. Okay. But like, it's so I never grew up with that. And I can turn it off, but why do that? You guys don't care, right?
No, I mean,
no.
If you were to talk to like elementary me, I might have cared because
that's the thing. Like
back then, like I was like very like against.
Oh yeah, but it's also like I don't think I physically could do that with an elementary school kid. Like, because like it just would feel wrong. Like,
Yeah, well, I'm assuming like if quarantine never happened, because quarantine was our own sort of lobotomy to some extent, except not the ice picking. Yeah, because like I think like before quarantine, I had like my own sort of vocabulary. I'd be like, instead of like what the frick or what the whatever,
shut the front door, all that kind of stuff.
Basically, holy moly, guacamole, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And every time like, because I would see like other students just like say it, and I'm like, these like what's wrong with them?
Yeah.
Like it's bad influence and all. And now look at me, I'm not too like careful about it. I mean, I can still be very, not with it. But now it's like I've done it for so long now that like it's starting to like catch on with my parents, and like my dad would try to like manage that. Now he's like, as long as I don't say it to be rude, like,
which for me is like the deeper learning and understanding. Like it's not about like I am against people policing what they say, period. Like I have a problem with that. But I think there is like the deeper learning and like maturation of just like reading the room, reading the context, not thinking about it so much in terms of like you're not supposed to do this and you're not supposed to do that, but more like in this context, in this environment that I'm in right now, in this moment, what is going to be the most effective, like, and the most effective way to get my point across, and then also like the most true to who I am way to get my point across. So like this right now, I could be filling this, if the microphone wasn't recording, I would have been swearing constantly. Yeah. But like it's as simple as knowing like, well, that doesn't work for the form of what you're doing right now, so I better be able to turn it off. And so like I think as long as you can turn it off, and as long as you know that, like that's what it is. And then also like, I don't know. I think like, when you're in elementary school, morally, you're in a place in your life where rules like that, you're not supposed to do this, you are supposed to do that. It makes sense. Yeah. But y'all are not at that place in your life. Like, if you look at like generally how moral development goes for most people who go all the way through their moral development, usually right around the time between like 16 and 18 is when it becomes completely and unbelievably apparent deep down that like all these formal rules about conduct I was taught, it's more complicated than that. And so like the old, like, if I'd asked you 10 years ago, is killing wrong? You would have been like, yeah, obviously. But now, if I ask you that, your immediate thing is like,
what's the context?
Yeah, it's way more complicated than that. Yeah. And so I think the same kind of thing with like profanity, and also with like a lot of the other things that we try and police around schools, we're doing a disservice to your moral development. Because y'all are at the point now where we should be encouraging and pushing that, seeing it more complex in its full complexity, in its full context, as nuanced and layered, and there are no simple rules about how you're supposed to act. It all is contingent on circumstances. And it's like, we need to encourage that. Yeah. And if we're still holding to this just, no, we don't do that because we don't do it, we're not giving people the opportunity to fully explore that context. Yeah.
The thing I've noticed about school is that the more you go up in like grades and shit, the more like people just, the teachers just stop caring. Elementary school is like, you gotta call me Miss or Mister because I've earned this title and stuff. Yeah. Stuff. You gotta, don't curse, sit the fuck down, shut up.
Straighten your back, take your hat off.
Yeah. Don't lean back in your chair because you're gonna break your fucking head. And then middle school is just like still sit down, but like you don't have to call me Mr. or Mrs. anymore. You can just call me by my last name. And then high school is just like, just do whatever the fuck you want.
Just don't be an asshole. Yeah. Like as long as you're not being an asshole and messing it up for everybody else.
I've seen these videos in colleges where it's like the most random bullshit just be happening in school, the classrooms. Yeah. Like people just be appearing in costumes, bringing instruments, like pulling up with a typewriter.
Yeah.
Welcome to the mystery doors. There's some guy on TikTok out there like doing some like blind date, something like that, and he's just out there doing that for like he's covering the door. And he's like, all right, step out. We see the shoes, and he has like a row of like boys or girls for the boy or girl, and they're like, yeah, and they just pop a balloon if they want.
I still remember the class in college where after my professor had gotten tenure, he got tenure his tenure got finalized in the morning, and we had class in the afternoon. And like tenure is like the ultimate big deal for college professors. It's basically like lifetime job security, high pay. You've made it. You're settled. The grind is over. You can just relax and teach and research whatever you want. You don't have to play the like academia game anymore. And usually you don't get tenure until you're like in your mid 40s and stuff like that. And he got tenure that morning, and he had to teach our class. And this is a senior level seminar where it's like probably like 10 of us in there. We all knew him really well, and he was like through the moon because like he'd freaking made it.
Yeah.
So he decided for that day, you know what? Come on, we're going down to the bar. We're doing class down at the bar. And like he's just like, my tab, I'm paying. So like we just like had our like postmodern British literature class on the patio of a bar over a bunch of beers at like 2 p.m, paid for by my professor. Like one of my happier memories of college.
Yeah.
And also like but like it fits with where we are, where we were at. And so yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the joys of like, I think especially working at this school is how there's like two sides of it. Our parent engagement here sucks.
Yeah.
Like it's non-existent, which is tough, but it's also like gets rid of one of the worst parts about being a teacher, which is dealing with parental expectations about what teaching and education and relationships and all that is. And like, I mean, if I was at some fancy prep school, I would have long since gotten in trouble for a lot of the things that have come out of my mouth. Yeah. But then I would have been kind of policing what I was saying, not for the sake of my students, but for the sake of their parents, which feels wrong to me. And so there's like this freeing way of knowing that like at the end of the day, my only like clients here are y'all, and I get to ignore all the other layers of it and just be like, as long as I feel comfortable in my own morality and why I'm doing what I'm doing, and that I actually am like modeling one version of being a good person, like I don't need to worry about all that BS. Like I can just be who I want and be comfortable, like be honest about things that like I don't have to worry about like hiding experiences I went through, because I'm like, I know how to put that in context. I know how to explain all the wild shit I did when I was a kid that was like very self-destructive at the time, but I also understand why I did it, and I'm not going to be like, oh, those were mistakes I made. I can like put it in its context of being like, this is where I was in life and this is how I ended up doing that. And like, yeah, it might have been fun in the while, but like, you get older and things become, but like I get to answer questions honestly in a way that like I never would be able to in a lot of different contexts. So it's like in one of the seniors in the film-inspired creative writing class the other day asked me like one of those questions where it's just like, what are you supposed to do with this? He's like, Mogey, what's the hardest drug you've ever done? I'm like, how do you answer that question as a teacher?
I mean,
you can lie.
Yeah. Or you can
answer it in a really like direct and not providing any context thing. Or you can have like a really honest conversation about like, this is what the world I grew up in, and this is like what people got pushed to do, and here's what was normal, and here are the people who like went down that and are like doing totally fine, and like, here's this guy I knew from college who got hooked on heroin, who's now like a professor of law at Duke University. And here's this other guy I know who's like an unfunctional alcoholic. And it's like kind of a mix of like things within that. And like, but I also understand how everybody got in this. And like, without ever actually like answering his question, I was able to fully answer the question by being totally honest. But if I had been thinking about like, at any given point in time, I need to be able to justify to a parent why I had this conversation with the students. It would have like, I wouldn't have been able to answer in the way I did, which I think was kind of educational for them, and not also like definitely not like pushing them to be like, go smoke crack. Like it wasn't that at all. But it's like I was able to be honest with them in a way that like I think people appreciate and recognize that like This is real. This isn't, like, if I had just been like, I've never done anything like that before. It's like, what are you supposed to do with that? Yeah. Or like one of my favorite things you get asked a lot, usually happens when you're teaching freshmen, is when freshmen find out that I'm single. Oh. And they're like, Mogey, have you ever had sex before? And like, how do you handle that as like an adult? And you're like, well, I mean, like, I'm 37 years old. I'll let that answer the question for itself. But it's like, part of, like, you're supposed to just be like, oh, you need to redirect that conversation. But then I think people pick up on the fact that, like, number one, oh, they're not being honest with us. And then number two, they don't know how to be honest with us in a way that's not going to be weird. Yeah. And then number three, like, it's just building a wall between the two sides of the room. Yeah. And I have no interest in that wall being there.
Yeah, and it's a bit worse when someone else answers that question. For example, if you were to ask me, how was my Valentine's Day this year? And then Ishmael were to answer.
Well, let me just say.
Just say what happened in my Valentine's Day.
Huh? I'm not gonna fucking say it, bro. You're gonna get arrested.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's without context. Because
it's not as bad as it seems, though.
It's not.
There's always things like that. Like, I've noticed. Yeah.
I don't think I would get arrested, though. I mean, it's not like...
It's questionable, but not illegal.
Yeah, no, not illegal. It is like a question of, like...
Moral gray areas.
Mainly because, like they just turned 14.
I mean,
nothing bad happened. Nothing happened.
No. And I think this is one of the hard things about, like, all of this kind of stuff that, like, I'm trying to figure out how to answer this without, like... So I don't think I know anybody who hasn't, at some point in their time, done something where they're, like, looking back on it and they're like, ooh, that was kind of weird in retrospect, huh? Yeah. Like, I don't think I did anything bad there, but I understand that, like, that could have... Like, it's the kind of thing where you need to explain the full context in order to make it seem okay. Yeah. And it's like, once you do that, it's totally fine, but, like, it sits weird. And, like, I have a bunch of experiences like that. And I think that's one of the hard things, especially for, like, my generation of guys, where, like, like, I am from the most, like, hard partying generation in the history of America in a lot of ways, where, like, the wildest times in terms of excess of everything, which one of the things it meant is that, like, overly sexually aggressive males specifically was a big thing. I think I can say very safely that every single one of my friends growing up, without a doubt, did some heinous sexual harassment and, like, borderline sexually manipulative, creepy shit. Every single one of them. So I'm like, I'm thinking, like, I think back on it, I'm like, the number of things that were just, like, normal, but, like, if it happened in today's world, you'd be like, that dude's a predator. Yeah. Like, that was extremely common. And it's, like, this shame that, like, I think a lot of us, like, have to, like, my generation has to, like, sit with, of, like, we now understand that, like, that was bad. I kind of just, like, cornered that person and didn't really give them a way to say that, like, I didn't, like, coerce anybody, but like, that was not consensual. And, like, I think it's, like, one of the things about growing up is, like, I think we do everybody a disservice if we're not honest about the fact that, like, that happened. And, like, we as a people have kind of learned from it, but, like, I'm not going to just, like, I have to live with that. And everybody has to live with that in the same way.
There's people that just, like, oh, I did that, and it's normal.
Yeah.
And they expect it to still be normal. Yeah. And the worst part is when they encourage it more.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it comes from this place of, like, never having had the ability to just, like, be okay with the fact that, like we all know we screw up, and that also is going to involve harming people in a lot of ways. Yeah. And, like, I think part of life is learning how to manage that in a productive way. Because if you're going to go through your life being like, I'm never going to really screw up like that, you're in no position to emotionally process it when you do. And then that's when people get defensive, deny what's going on, and that pushes them into an identity that, like, you turn your whole world into it. But yeah, no, it's a weird thing to just like. One of the hardest things I think about getting older is like continuing to stay compassionate with your younger self once you start to realize all the ways that your younger self screwed up. And like a lot of that, and that's like goes back to what we're talking about, like this, like we're only really telling myths about our past. Yeah. Where I'm like, I don't want my myth to be something that convinces me that I've only ever done okay, or it's not my fault, or it's not my problem. I need to figure out a way for the version of myself that I tell myself, like about who I am, to like have compassion and understanding for the times when I screwed up, and like not blame myself for it, but like fully embrace the like, yeah, that was me at a time, and circumstances made me that way, and I'm not going to blame myself, and I can explain to you thoroughly like why did I end up a frat bro in college. Like I'm like, it made perfect sense given the circumstances, so I can have compassion for myself for being in that circumstance, which allows me to actually like look at what was happening in that environment, and like so
Yeah. Well, there's like, I just wanted to like mention like your goddamn voice, man. Like I don't know if there's like I don't know if you have some like freaking hacking skills or like I don't know, because like you're talking, and normally I can like sometimes butt in and like ask a question, but like I think you've noticed me just like kind of like, you know, doing that.
I have been told that I could make a second job doing voice narrations of things. Yeah. And no, I mean, that was one of the funnest things about COVID schooling too. When I was just like sitting bored. Wait, first thing, do you know what teachers mostly did during COVID? Do you know like what the experience was involved on our side?
Not necessarily.
Oh man, so it was depressing. It was like super depressing because you got your Zoom screen up, and like I got my setup at home. Like I got my like 3-monitor full station with like gaming PC and everything hooked up into it and everything peripheral. So like I got my screen over here that's got the class running in the dock. And then I also have my ongoing racing sim series that I've been doing 24-hour races in the whole time. So I'm like literally participating in like an online race while teaching class within it. But it's like, so like we're just like bored out of our mind with nothing to do, being like, I can't leave my computer, but there's nothing happening here. So one of the things that this got way into was just like, all right, I'm going to make sure I have to read to kids. So I'm going to make sure that all my voice narrations are like perfect. So like getting the mic set up, getting the acoustics all, getting the background noise hooked up, and like really training my voice to be like, oh, this is the horror week. So we need to make sure to read everything in this type of voice, and like, you know, like really kind of like hamming that up. And after I was like, this is kind of fun. I think I could just do I could do that for a living. But but it's not what I stumbled into randomly after I got out of the hospital. So here I am.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think you would have been a pretty good voice actor. Yeah. You still can be. I mean,
no, you never know. I mean, like, you never know when teaching's going to totally die. So,
I
don't know.
And whenever it's rebelling against school and becomes...
I mean, when that happens, when they ask me to facilitate the AI teacher that you've been assigned, I will be quitting my job and moving into the woods and building a little off-the-grid compound.
So,
because
that's another thing. When me and Ishmael were talking about having you on the podcast, he mentioned something that your sister said, like how Mogey's basically nowhere, just like in 2 places or something.
What?
I don't remember if I had that conversation with you.
How I spend my summers?
Like, if we were to like Google you right now,
yeah.
Like you're in like 2 places.
Yeah, I don't really exist.
Yeah.
I don't. I've never. I had a Facebook account in college, I deleted it immediately after college because there was a lot of stuff on there that I didn't want the pictures around there to be. Because like when we all started using Facebook and stuff like that, there was never a sense that this was going to be like public. Like Facebook only was allowed for college students, so it was like college to college to college. So you just posted all your wild stuff, like party pictures, whatever. So it was like a common thing. Like after you're done, you got to delete that because you're never going to get a job if they search your name and they find out. So I got rid of that. Never had any of the other ones just because I despise it and it feels fake and awful. And then like the other thing, I was just like, I don't understand. There's a lot of things about the world I don't understand, like the modern world I don't understand. More than any, I think, is the desire to be known and famous and seen that has like infected the world. Where like the number of people whose dreams is just to like be recognized by other people, I don't get it.
I think it's just that people want what comes with fame. They just don't want the actual fame. You know, they want to be like Michael Jackson, where he's like has all this cool stuff, all the private jets, all the cars, like big ass house.
Became what?
Yeah, gaining rights. But not the stuff where like you can't go to an airport or you can't drive a car or go to the grocery store normally.
No, and then even so, like I think this is like you look at like famous musicians, famous athletes. I think are like the best example of it. Like what they actually do all day is miserable for most people. If you want to be like talk to Porter about what it takes to actually be a touring musician. It is a freaking grind. Like it is a physically brutal, painful, horrible experience where it's like, if you're not doing that for the love of performing on stage and you're doing it because you're like, it's really cool that like, I got to stay at this nice hotel and eat this nice food and got this free stuff, you're going to be miserable. And so it's like, you know, like, so I think there's that side of it. And then I also think like, but that's always been the case with what you're saying. I think the thing that's changed is like the idea that like this is like being famous is an endpoint in and of itself in a way where like the goal is just to get famous by any means necessary, which is like to me what was different. It used to be I think like I want to be a famous singer, I want to be a famous writer, I want to be a famous basketball player. There was never this like I just want to be famous so I'll figure out the way that's going to get me famous.
Now you just have people that are just absolutely fucking talentless, like earning more than people that actually have talent. Like I listen to like I see like a bunch of like these musicians on like YouTube and shit. Like a lot of them are like absolute ass.
Oh yeah.
They just have really good production. Yeah. Like without it, they're just really bad.
And then if you just go to like some average random concert in person and like the background musicians there are like 1,000 times more talented usually.
Yeah.
And it's like you see the same thing with like writing, like the number of like books that the internet is falling in love with and like the book talk world and all that kind of crap where you're just like, these people are horrible writers. And they're also like, you listen to them talk and they're like, you know, it's the kind of writers, like one of the big like writers who are like, oh, I don't really read much though. And I'm like, you obviously don't like writing then. If you're like saying you're obviously not doing this for like the whole purpose. The other version of this, though, and I'll say, as it goes to teaching, and this is one of my biggest pet peeves, the number of people working in my job who do not act, or they're not actually interested in teaching. What they want to do is they want to inspire and change students. They start with that, not with the like, I just want to do the work on the ground. They start with like this idea of like, I want to be the type of person who changes lives. And how fake it is when they get into the actual room and they're like, and now you got to do the job and just like hang out with these kids and like push them along. And you see how miserable they are day in, day out. Like the number of my colleagues where I'm like, I don't think you like this. I don't think you actually like working with high school students. Because, like, I think you like telling yourself that this is a good, important thing to do in the same way that the famous person might be like, you know, I think I'm telling myself that being a famous, you know, having a blah, blah, blah number of followers makes me a success in life. But they don't actually, I don't know if they actually like what they're doing. And that's, I'm like, we're making ourselves miserable for, like, what? Our own ego, but it's not even our own ego. It's just like, it's just to be seen a certain way by the world. But then, like, I think everybody is smart enough to know that, like I think this is one of the things I think is going to be really interesting to keep track of over the next 20 years is just like, it's going to become more and more and more apparent as time goes on just how shallow and empty and vapid the lives of, like, especially most, like, influencers are. And we're going to have, like, we're going to really need to grapple with, like there's going to be a whole generation or two where it's just like, we spent all our time pursuing some bullshit. And, like, how we're going to deal with that and embrace that, it's, I don't know, I'm looking forward to seeing it. Because, like, I do think it is becoming more aware. Like, I think 5 years ago when I, you know, if you ask kids what they wanted to do, especially if you ask this for a ninth grader, you would get a lot of things of, like, I want to be a famous streamer and stuff like that. I think if you did that now, I think there's a lot more of awareness of, it's like, that's kind of bullshit. That's not going to happen, like,
unless you're really lucky.
Yeah, and, like, and if you do push yourself into that, do you really want to be doing that? Because, like, you all know what streamers actually do all day, right? Like, you're just sitting in front of your computer for, like, 12 hours straight managing a chat. That
I can't even play games for, like, that amount anymore.
Yeah, like, it's like, do you really want to do that every day for the rest of your life? That sounds miserable. Unless, you know, and I think that, you know, unless you convince yourself that the only goal is to be able to, like, get free computers shipped to you and stuff like that. But,
you know, the thing I've realized that as I get older, like, my dream job just becomes, like, more and more realistic. Like elementary school, like the beginning, I was just like, oh, like before elementary school, it's just like, oh, I want to be an astronaut. Elementary school comes, and I'm just like, oh, I want to be a scientist. Like middle school comes up, and I'm just like, I don't know what I want to be. Now I'm out, and now I went from wanting to do that, and I was just, maybe I can, I don't know, make a band or some shit and become famous and stuff. And now I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna become an accountant.
Yeah, like, why not?
Like, I want to help rich people evade taxes and stuff.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. I mean, it's like the actual work that you're doing with that seems way more fascinating to me than being famous in nearly any context. Because, like, especially as you get older, I'm like, it's a puzzle. I'm solving a puzzle. Here's a problem. I'm going to work out some convoluted solution to the problem. I can get into the work there, and that's going to be fun. Yeah. Versus, like, something where it's like the actual work that you'd be doing, like being an astronaut. 90% of being an astronaut is, like, brutal physical training that I wouldn't want anything to do with. I want to go to space, but I don't want to do the work there.
Yeah, and then you go to space, and there's no guarantee you'll come back.
You might get stuck on that Boeing. Don't take that Boeing.
It's always, I mean, for me, it's always just been, I mean, especially like now, it's been changing. My goals in life. I don't even know like exactly the main ideas, but I do want to like get involved in like anything that involves the media. Yeah. Journaling, podcasting, movies, films, TV shows, anything that just involves just being out there. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I made the podcast with the intent of just having something. Like, I don't mind if it goes up. I don't mind if it goes down. I just want it to, like, go. Yeah. And even when we're gone, I'm hoping someone will, you know, continue that. Yeah.
Like, I don't know, bro. I'm just doing this shit for the grade.
I mean, but, like, going back to how I got into teaching, this is how this works, though. I feel like this is how it's supposed to work, where you're kind of just doing some shit because it's in front of you and you kind of have to. And then afterwards you realize, oh yeah, that made sense for me. That clicked. I could do that. Where it's like, I don't think you're supposed to know what you want to do before you act. The idea of knowing what you want to do before you've actually done it is stupid. The only way it's the way it's supposed to work is you try a bunch of shit out. You're going to do a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
You're going to have some experience that's somewhat tangentially related to an actual career. And you're going to be like, oh yeah, that actually felt like the kind of thing I could sustain. And when I go home and close my eyes and are processing what I did, during the day, that felt right. But like, you're only going to know that after the fact. So I'm like, I think you're both actually saying the same thing. Like, I'm just doing this shit for the grade, and then I found out, oh well, I actually want to do this. Kind of is the same thing.
Yeah.
And there's no wrong answer. You just try a bunch of shit out. It'll feel right when it feels right.
Yeah.
That's like the ultimate truth of it.
Well, felt wrong 2 times. I was hoping we'd have more time, and then no.
We can do follow up. I don't know. Yeah, if y'all want to come back next week, we can talk more. I'm as you can tell, I'm okay talking. I can just talk. So
Yeah, we'll definitely pick this back.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man, every time.
Good morning, students.
Well,
Thank you, guys.
yeah, thank you, Mogey, for taking the time to be with us. Hoping to do this another week, because talking with you is like what the heck. Or I don't know if you have like a day after school too. We could probably find time.
I want to make this work. This was really fun. Yeah, absolute pleasure. Happy to.
Hoping to have a lot more. Thank you, listener, for listening to this podcast. Hoping to have more, hopefully with other teachers. Otherwise, it's going to be with Mogey again. And this has been the Kennedy. Shut the anyways.
You are to report to your advisory.
She's gonna keep going for a second.
Yeah.
And then the other kids are coming in, so we're screwed. It's over.
Goodbye.
It's been good.
Yeah.